if you want a personal session with me, my phone number is 027 4166 545. And the sessions I do are not just tarot readings. At this time, it's good to get something for the year, a month by month for the year, for things that are coming up for you. It helps to understand your month, and when you read back, when you're in that month, you can actually see how that works. It's just helpful. It's just really helpful. It can give you a bit of guidance as well. So we will change a subject a little bit now. We've done the cards for February, even though it's middle of February. And if we look now at you, so if you have ever felt in your life that you are someone different to the way other people think of you or view you, you'd be correct. Families sometimes are the ones that know us the least, even though they've lived with us every day. They may know your behaviours, your character a little bit, your personality, but they still don't really know all of your personality, what you're capable of, how you would react in different situations. They might know a little bit like, oh, you're very sensitive and, you don't cope with those things. But maybe they haven't recognised in you a great resilience that you have, a great reservoir of strength that you have to carry you through those things. So families are not always the ones who are best, that know what's good for you. And very few people on the planet ever really will understand you, know what works for you, know what you're good at, and give you the chance to be good at that thing and support you. So there's not a lot of people in your world that you will meet that will fit those criteria. So at the end of the day, you have you, and you are it. But you know you. If you take the time to find out about you, you get to know more about you, more about what you are capable of by challenging yourself, or the fact that life has challenged you and you have survived. You have come through, which means that you're strong, you have learnt new skills, you have the skills necessary to overcome certain things in your life. It's very important to learn about you and who you are. You are human. So learning the human you can be quite difficult or challenging or rocky. It can be a murky place to find out about yourself and what you're capable of. I said about challenges before, so you could, if you wanted to, learn more about yourself, set yourself little challenges every day. We were taught to never touch anything that did not belong to us. And that was a really good, useful thing in my life. The thing I needed to challenge about that, though, because it was extreme, middle line is always best, but because it was extreme, we were not allowed to touch a leaf that came over toward the footpath, a flower, or something on someone else's property, because it was their property, it was not ours. So one of the things that I challenged myself with as I got older was to challenge that fear, that uncertainty. I had a mother who would yell out the window if anybody did anything wrong in the neighbourhood. And my mum had a very loud voice. So I was under fear that this would happen to me if I touched anything that was on the footpath side, I'm saying, of somebody's fence. So one day I challenged myself, and I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again because it was a really big deal for me. I challenged myself to pick a flower that was actually poking out through the palings of a fence. And I prepared myself to be yelled at. I prepared myself of all the things that could perhaps happen to pick this flower. And so I picked the flower, held my breath, walked a few paces, and nothing had happened. Nothing had happened. That flower was very precious. It was a beautiful flower. I just really loved it. And it was a small flower. And I learnt something about myself in that moment, that I didn't have to be afraid of things I was taught, that I could challenge them to find out for myself if the fear was valid. And needless to say, I continue to do that and still continue to do that, because then I find out more about me. I can feel more comfortable in my own skin. There is this thing, and I feel that we are all individuals. We are grouped together for convenience and for things to work out, and teamwork is a big thing. But you are an individual. You're not just a human being. You know there's more to you. You know that if you were given time to react to something, that you would react in a different way to the way that you reacted in the first place, unless you were completely proud of how you reacted. Often we react on emotions, so sometimes we're not proud of how we react. And we look at ourselves at some point in our lives. I have my entire life because I genuinely wanted to know who I was, but what, where, when, how about everything as well. So I found things about myself that were good and really not good. I hated myself for a very, very long time with the things that were not good. One of my big things was anger. I'm a fire sign, but I'm also a fire rooster on the Eastern astrology, so therefore I have double fire. And that came out inappropriately, reacting to different things that were happening in my life. And I could not see any usefulness for anger at all, because it was destructive. Every single time it was destructive. It wasn't until I really genuinely questioned what purpose anger had, what use was it, because I was beating up on myself all that time because I had this anger that was ugly, destructive, and people didn't like it, hence me. So it was probably about 20 odd years ago, and I had to do the vacuuming, which might sound like a very small thing to you, but at that time I was really unwell. I had no energy and it hadn't been done for weeks, so I had to do it because I had a group of people coming, because I've taken teaching groups for years. So I had a group of people coming and I really just had to vacuum. And I remember going to bed at night and thinking, how am I going to get the vacuuming done? How am I going to get the vacuuming done and still have energy for the group? And I can remember going to sleep and waking up. I had this lovely dream. I woke up with this, it was just a really lovely dream. Wish I could remember it. But I was really, really happy. And then I went to put my feet on the floor, sitting on the bed, and the next thing I felt overwhelming anger. And I'm like, what? What the heck is that all about? And I've always gotten words in my head. I've always got thoughts that come to me. And I couldn't figure it out. I got up, I started walking around, and the next thing I got a little nudge, tap on the shoulder. You wanted to do the vacuuming, because I'm still going, why am I angry? Why am I so angry? And if I got angry, I could never get myself out of being angry. It was just, I was angry. I was justified in my anger, but this time I couldn't justify it because I didn't know. So the tap on the shoulder, do the vacuum. You wanted to do the vacuuming. No, I'm too angry to do the vacuuming. And then I got this kind of like, it was like a sigh in my head. And I'm like, okay, rightio, I'll just do the vacuuming. Did the vacuuming, finished the vacuuming, put the vacuum cleaner away. And then I realised I wasn't angry anymore. And the other thing I realised was that I hadn't used any energy at all. My energy was still the same. And so I walk around the house, and I'm a bit slow sometimes. And I'm walking around the house, and the next thing I get, so now you know what anger's useful for. And I go, okay. Okay, so that immediately, it sort of it didn't suppress, so it evaporated a lot of my anger, my issues around anger, the hate part of myself that I had for being angry. So everything has a purpose within your being. Every weakness that you have serves you in some way. I've talked about this a little bit, and I'm sure before, but just so that you remember, look at your weaknesses, please. Look at the things you hate about yourself. Look, write a list if you like. But if you write a list, please write a list of all the good things and the things that you do like about yourself. If those lists aren't comparably the same, then you've got some work to do, okay? You've either got to be more honest with yourself about what your weaknesses are, or you need to be more flattering and complimentary to yourself about the things that you are capable of, the things you have succeeded at. They should be equal, because that is the yin and the yang. That is the night and the day. That is the black and the white. That is your completeness. You need all of that. I wrote a little bit about being and feeling different. That if you feel different in any way to your peers, to society's paradigm of thinking, to the ways of education, what we're educated with even. I think that's very healthy. I feel that is extremely healthy. If you are feeling that you are seeing more behind things, so sometimes there's motivations, yes, sometimes there's agendas, yes, we know that because it's been proven time and time again. It is, you are able to see, so this is see with your other eyes, you are being able to see or feel that there is more to what is being said, or that it's not quite correct. Never ignore those feelings. You are right, because in the human sense of things, we are very, I don't know, it's kind of bland, boring. It's like the box, okay? And we like things that fit in the box, because if they fit in the box, we know where everything is and we know what we're dealing with. When people start doing something different in the world, living in a different way, we can have a negative reaction to that often. It is becoming less and less over time that way, but belonging meant back in the day that people lived the same sort of routine in life, work, school, career, all kinds of things, money, everything. And everything was measured on how well you did at that. Nowadays, if you're different, if you're feeling different, then that's great. It means that you are now able to look at what kind of life you want to live, what ideas you want to follow, what things you want to implement alongside society, alongside all of those perimeters that you have to work within, and all those goals that need to be met, i.e., if you're in a home, then you pay rent. If you choose to be a traveller and a wanderer in the world, to have no fixed abode, you don't have those things. So it is about what you choose and then working with that. So if you are wandering, it is about that free flow. It is about that. And people have done this. there's a story, and if I could remember, it would be lovely, of I think she was in her 60s, so she turned 60, she sold everything she had, and she decided that she would let the Lord provide, and so that she would just go for a walk, and she would see where her next meal came from, where her shelter would be, but she wasn't going to think about it or worry about it. She was just going to wander and walk and see people and talk to people, see things, and just get involved and help people along the way in any way she could. This was no little journey. This was a big, long journey. And at the end of it, she said, there was not one meal I missed. There was not one night that I slept under the stars without shelter. There was not one time that I needed help that somebody wasn't right there to help me in that moment. And I loved that story because it tells us about the spontaneity of being in the flow of life and living, that things will come to you if you are just going along with them. If you feel trapped with your possessions and your job and your obligations, then you just sort how you can find your freedom within those, because you still need to have a little bit of individuality, a little bit of freedom, a little bit of you in it. Getting to know yourself is a massive, massive job. It takes years to really know and understand yourself, and then a little bit longer to be comfortable with the things you don't admire about yourself, or that you view or have judged and viewed in the past as being weaknesses and not strengths. A man that cried way back in the day was seen as weak. These days, a man that can cry is seen as having emotion, of being able to feel empathy and compassion and being sensitive. It doesn't mean that the man back in the day didn't feel those things. He just was not allowed to express them. Otherwise, he was seen as weak. So your freedoms these days are, if you are different, if you feel different, if you feel that you don't fit in the world, it means that you fit perfectly for now. Because now is the time when everybody is here to contribute individually in whichever way you can. It is about contributing. It is about sharing. It is about kindness. Kindness, definition of kindness, to do from Wikipedia, the definition of kindness is to lessen someone else's suffering. To be kind to someone is to lessen someone's suffering. And we need a lot of that. If you are struggling and feeling competitive and feeling like nobody can hear you and nobody's listening and nobody cares about you, start with caring about yourself. And that's actually what you're doing if you get angry. You're saying, I care, I do matter. I should be listened to. I do care about myself. And then go and prove it. Do something that helps you without hurting somebody else. Something that supports you or encourages you to do something, or even to look for something else that gives you meaning and purpose in life. And there are a lot of ways that you can find a lot more information about yourself, actually. And that's the easy part. And that is when you look and go onto Google and you look at your astrology, you look at, and so you need your time of birth, your place of birth, okay? Those are very key things. And you can look at your astrology, which is where all the planets were at the moment of your birth, which in itself is pretty amazing because it's a photo. It's a photo of a time that you arrived on the planet, but it tells a story as well. It gives you a character and a personality. Your name is very important as well because you chose your name. Your parents didn't choose your name. You chose your name. And some of you may not have been named straight away. You were just taking up your time. You were just feeling the life that you were coming into and feeling your surroundings and your parents, and then choosing your name from that. Your name is a vibration that helps you with your purpose in life. It adds to your strengths. It gives you positive characteristics as well as maybe not so great ones. But as I said, your negative characteristics actually help you in some way. So, talking about the anger that I felt way back, I knew what it gave me. It gave me the ability to say something. If I didn't agree with it and I got angry, then I could say something. It was never appropriate and it was never controlled. It was always not received well. But that's what it gave me. It gave me the ability to express, say what I needed to say. And even when I realised that, that is when I started looking for how I could say things that weren't nice in a less hurtful way, a less cutting way. And that's a lifelong journey. That is a lifelong journey. So I wrote a couple of things down because I decided I wanted to say, no matter how you feel in the world, no matter how you feel about yourself, you're wrong. If it's negative, you are wrong. It just means you haven't learned enough. You need to actually look at yourself as a project in the making. It takes a lifetime. So I'm older now, and the things that I've learned in my life, I can appreciate that I've actually learnt some things and still have more to go. I can appreciate that those difficult periods of my life were very strong teaching moments. If I had just seen them as a teaching moment, I may not have become so overwhelmed by them. So if you're going through an overwhelming experience at the moment, what is it showing you? What information is it giving you? What do you learn from that? Overwhelming experiences have layers and layers and layers of meaning. They have so much information that you are not able to consciously or unconsciously compute it all. And that's why it gets overwhelming. It's just there's so much information you can't compute it. You can't make sense of it. And so when you're overwhelmed, what do? Take a breath, step out, go for a walk. We do these things naturally and automatically. You don't realise you're doing exactly the thing that will help you to be less overwhelmed, to let go of having to unpack all that information, compute all that information. So overwhelm is just there's too much information. Stress is a little bit like that. There's just too much going on. Extreme stress, you've got far too much to cope with. You have no possibility of being able to do it all at once. And so when you're stressed and ultra stressed, what do? You chunk it down. You go, okay, so what is the most important right in this minute? And that is all I'm going to focus on. Just this. And then just this. If you allow yourself to be sucked into the vortex of stress, then it doesn't do you any good at all. Eventually you will break. And things are never the same once you've got to that point. It is something I've needed to be very aware of myself for the last couple of months, probably actually since middle of last year. And at the points when I have, when you get strung so thin, you just feel like you're going to break. The moment you feel like that, seriously, step it down, step out, breathe, focus on something that's completely irrelevant or completely silly. Comedy's a great thing. Even just watching a mindless kind of, YouTube, movie, whatever. All of those things help you to defrag. They help you to get that stress level down. And it's just an overwhelm. Stress is an overwhelm of all the things you have to do and the expectations that are on you, and maybe time limits and all that kind of stuff as well. Just thinking of too many things at once and not being able to sort them out, that's mental overwhelm, and you need to have a break from that as well. However you can get these breaks is perfect. I had a little thing I said about life, and life for me, doesn't have to be for you, but life for me is all about learning and exploring things and discovering things along the way that you didn't know. Discovering is like treasure hunting. And so I leave you with treasure hunting your life, yourself first, and then what you want to do in your life. What you would like to do is what you want to do, is what you need to do. Okay? So if you would like to have a individual session with me, it can be tarot, it can be life coaching, it can be about past lives, it can be about loved ones who've passed over, it can be about people here that you are concerned about. It can be a whole raft of anything in the psychic, intuitive, spiritual field. I am contactable on 027 4166 545. And on that note, I love and leave you. I will see you in the beginning of March. And at the beginning of March, we will also again do the cards. And we'll also have a subject that I talk about, which at the moment escapes me because I was all prepared today and I left my tablet at home. So take care of yourselves most of all, and stay positive. This is the year to be positive. This is the year when things can look up from last year. So please just look forward to, yes, what's good and what's coming next. Namaste. Take care.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Hawke's Bay, your community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.